For 3 seasons, Bluey has one aunt nobody talks about, and one storyline the show never explains to its own characters out loud. It's not a plot twist. It's not a cliffhanger. It's a woman named Brandy who shows up once, disappears for years, and carries something so heavy that the show's 7-year-old narrator isn't even given the vocabulary for it. And then, quietly, without fanfare, the show gives her an ending. Let's start where the audience did confused about why nobody would just say what was wrong with Aunt Brandy.
That as well. She was, of course, mentioned in Bluey's big play, the live stage show, when we first find out that she even exists in the first place, and that her and Chilli have had this massive argument that means they haven't talked in years. Specifically, 4 years, we find out.
I hope they fit. I wasn't sure how much they'd grown in, 4 years.
So if we put this on like a timeline, it obviously happened when Bluey is around like 2 years oldish and Bingo is most likely just been born.
4 years ago.
Brandy is Chilli's older sister, and the first time she appears on screen, it's been 4 years since she last saw her nieces. 4 years. Bluey and Bingo don't even remember meeting her. She shows up with onesies as a gift, a cheetah for Bluey, a zebra for Bingo, and within about 90 seconds of walking through the door, she's visibly uncomfortable, scanning for an exit, treating a simple family visit like something she has to survive. Bluey notices. Of course she notices. She's the one character in this show who clocks every adult mood shift within seconds of it happening. She asks her mom why Aunt Brandy is sad and why they've basically never met her. And Chilli, faced with the impossible task of explaining infertility to a 6-year-old, gives her the most honest answer a kid's show has ever given a kid. There's something Aunt Brandy wants more than anything as well, but she can't have it. And there's not really anything anyone can do. No further explanation. No happy reframe. The show just lets that sentence sit there, because that's what the actual situation demanded. It's worth saying plainly what Onesies is actually about, because the episode itself never says the word. Brandy has been trying and failing to have a child for years, long enough that being around her sister's kids has become something closer to grief management than a family visit. She stayed away not because she stopped caring, but because showing up hurt too much.
Hey, you did a voiceover, you did a voice on that massive show, Bluey.
Yes.
Did your kids flip out over that?
They did. Any kid does. I've never been more nervous. I love this show. I don't know if you got this show is so magical. And it's a huge success. And I played Chilli's sister Brandy, and it's an episode called Onesies, and it's an extraordinary episode too. It's very moving, but it meant a lot.
Brandy is voiced by Rose Byrne, an actress most people know from studio comedies, not 8-minute cartoons about a healer family in Brisbane. And when she talks about recording the role, she doesn't talk about it like just another job. She's called the show gentle but effective, said the music underneath it is more dramatic than anything you'd expect from a kid's cartoon, and been open that voicing a character built entirely around the inability to have a child was, in her words, a genuinely emotional thing to sit inside of, even just as a voice actor reading lines alone in a booth. That detail matters more than it should, honestly. This is a show about talking dogs, made for preschoolers, and one of its most quietly devastating storylines was performed by someone who clearly understood exactly what she was being asked to carry. There's also a smaller, sadder detail buried in the lore that most casual viewers miss entirely. The Healer sisters' breed, Red Healers, is written into the show as having a documented history of fertility struggles. It's not just Brandy's story, it's baked into the family itself, quietly, in the background, for anyone paying close enough attention to notice.
From season 3. Now, by the time we've come to season 3, Bingo is now 5 years old, and this nursery room that we see in the episode bedroom probably hasn't been used for about 3 years now. So why is it still there, and why do they still have all that baby stuff if they haven't used it for 3 years at least? And most likely, it could be because they were expecting another baby, but then unfortunately lost that baby. And that really makes it in this line that Chilli says really hit.
Here's the part that reframes the entire storyline, and it happens almost a full season before anyone even meets Brandy. In an earlier episode called The Show, Bluey and Bingo perform a play for Mother's Day, acting out their parents' whole relationship meeting, dating, getting married, and finally, Chilli's first pregnancy, represented by a balloon stuffed under Bingo's shirt. The balloon pops mid-scene. It's staged as an accident, a kid tripping over a prop. But watch what happens in the same second. Chilli's smile disappears completely, and Bandit reaches over and quietly takes her hand. For years, this was just a fan theory floating around message boards that the balloon wasn't a throwaway gag. that it was actually pointing at a miscarriage Chilli had before Bluey was born. The show's creator was eventually asked about it directly for a book on pregnancy loss, and he confirmed it outright. The scene is about Chilli's miscarriage, and the entire episode is really about her quietly teaching Bingo how to pick yourself back up after something breaks, using the exact coping method she once had to use on herself, which means the show's two adult sisters are carrying versions of the same private grief at the same time, mostly alone, and neither of them says the actual word out loud to a single child in the entire series. Chilli spends years encouraging her daughters through disappointment, using a skill she built out of her own loss. Brandy spends years staying away from the family that reminds her of the things she can't have. Same wound, two completely different ways of surviving it, and the show trusts its audience to notice the connection without ever once drawing an arrow between them. There's a detail in that connection that makes it hit even harder once you know where to look. Fans had also noticed, long before any of this was confirmed, that Chilli never once goes to her own mother for advice about raising baby Bluey. She goes to a friend, to her mother-in-law, to anyone but the one person you'd expect a new mom to call first. It turns out that's not an oversight either. Chilli's mother is gone, and the show never spells out exactly when or how, only that Chilli learned to keep going the same way she later teaches Bingo to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and carry on, because that's what was modeled for her. Grief, in this family, isn't an event. It's an inheritance, quietly passed down and quietly managed, one generation at a time.
The ladies from Gotta Be Done, they got to voice this character. But we see that they're a mixed breed couple with a baby. We see another mum with a very different looking child as well. So again, more of that sort of idea of mixed breeds coming into Bluey. We see a lot of background characters that we have seen before, like the boxer dad and child, as well as Juniper's brother and the Pomeranian dog we see with them. We also see some of Bingo's classmates like Bentley and Harley, as well as Juniper, her mum, as well as the wheelchair dog as well. And I especially love the Chippy and Cherry little scene that we get to see of them looking at the lookout as well.
Fast forward to the healer's biggest, longest episode, the near move, the wedding, the sign in the front yard. Brandy comes back for Uncle Rad's wedding, and for most of the episode, she's just background, a guest in a crowd scene, nothing more. Except, if you look closely, really closely, there's a shot of her sitting at the table with a full glass of water instead of champagne, and the slightest curve under her middle that a fast first watch will completely miss. It wasn't an accident. It was confirmed shortly after. Brandy is pregnant. After years of an infertility storyline that the show never resolved with false comfort, never rushed, never even fully explained to its own child characters, she gets the thing she wanted, off to the side, in a single, unlabeled frame, at someone else's wedding. No fanfare, no dialogue calling it out. You either caught it, or you found out from someone else after the fact, and had to go back and rewatch the scene to confirm it yourself.
So you can't have it. And there's not really anything anyone can do to make it fit.
Yeah.
Well, there's something Auntie Brandy wants more than anything as well. But she can't have it. And there's not really anything anyone can do.
How do you understand what's going on there?
Sure. So I will also kind of calm viewers to say that there's, speaking of the finale, there might be a happy ending to what is talked about potentially in Onesies. But what's going on in that clip is a parent basically trying to.
A few days after that special aired, the show quietly dropped one more episode, almost as an afterthought, a normal 7-minute one. Bluey and Bingo pulling their dad in two directions at once. But it ends with a flash forward. An adult Bluey, gray around the muzzle like her parents now are, standing at the door of the same house. She's a mother herself. There's a small, floppy-eared pup hiding by the doorframe with her dad's old toy blaster waiting to be found. Put those two things next to each other, Brandy's quiet reveal under a wedding table, and grown-up Bluey answering her own front door with a child of her own in tow, and the show's whole argument about parenthood snaps into focus. This was never actually a storyline about infertility as tragedy, or motherhood as a finish line everyone eventually crosses. It was about time, about how some people get the thing they want on the first try and don't think twice about it, and some people spend years staying away from the people they love because being near the thing they can't have is unbearable. And both of those are just true. At once, in the same family, without one canceling out the other. Brandy didn't get her ending because the show needed a bow on it. She got it because Bluey has always been a show that lets grief sit exactly as long as it needs to, and only then, quietly, without asking anyone to clap, lets it turn into something else. And it's worth sitting with how deliberately the show refuses to spell any of this out for the kids watching it. A 5-year-old doesn't need to understand infertility or miscarriage or the specific mechanics of why Aunt Brandy was sad for 4 years. What they absorb instead, without ever being told directly, is something closer to the real lesson underneath all of it, that adults carry things you can't always see, that sadness doesn't always come with an explanation attached, and that showing up for someone, even when you don't fully understand what they're going through, is most of what love actually looks like in practice. The kids in the audience get the feeling. The adults get the whole story. That gap between what a 7-minute episode says out loud and what it's actually building underneath is the entire reason this show can make grown adults cry over a cartoon dog family, while their own kids are just happy the aunt finally got a hug. That's the whole trick underneath this one. Bluey never tells you Brandy is sad because she's infertile. It never tells you Chilli understands her sister's pain because of her own. It just shows you a hand reaching for another hand, a balloon popping, a glass of water instead of champagne, and trust that if you've lived any version of this, you'll see it. And if you haven't, you'll still feel it anyway.